Hello, everybody. Welcome to and welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis, and another edition of BookTube Talk Live with me and my co-host Randy Ray from the Literate Texan. And we are joined today by the wonderful Mike from Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance, and I said that correctly.
Yes, you did. There's a bit of confusion sometimes because my handle after the ampersand sign is Riff Raff Reads.
Yeah.
But the channel is Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance because that's the journey I'm on.
I'm lucky I haven't got one of those impediments where I'd be like, Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance would be a bit hard, wouldn't it? If I was Jonathan Ross.
Indeed.
So, Mike, you're fairly new to BookTube as a creator.
Yep.
How long has your channel been going now?
I started, the first video went out on the 1st of July this year.
Okay. Very new.
Oh, wow.
Really.
It's quite new, and I've just, a couple of days ago, I've just clocked my 400 subscribers. With
Congratulations.
Well, it's a journey. We're getting there. Yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm trying to put out sort of 2 videos a week, which because I've got a busy day job and a family, etc. It's a challenge. I'm not sure I'll keep it up permanently, but I think I'm not going to get paranoid about things. I'm doing this for fun and the love of reading. And if it catches on, great. And if I get to meet, which I already have, fantastic guys like you guys and Steve and Shelley Swearingen, I mean, life is better for that experience. And if it gets to 500 subscribers and that's it, then that's it. You know, I'm too old to worry about too much of sort of.
I think you're doing pretty well, though. I mean, 400 by what is that?
Very well.
August, September, October, 3 months.
Not bad at all.
Bad.
Well, I'll tell you the honest way I look at it. I know there's a million statistics we're supposed to measure. I tend to watch the one that says subscribers divided by number of videos I've done, and that's about 10.
An efficiency. That's an efficiency metric.
Yeah, and that's about 10 to 1. So that's not too bad. You know,
10 to 1's good. It's better than I do.
Well, it's also better than
about 7 to 1.
It's better than Steve Donahue because he's done 1 million videos. So when you divide it out, you know, it doesn't work.
It's better than me because I've got something I think like 800 videos and 2,500 subscribers. So what's that? It's like.
Okay. Look, I think
you didn't know you were supposed to be tracking that metric, did you?
No. I might delete a bulk of the videos from the early days.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling when you first get into all the various statistics that are there. But I'm very intrigued by which videos are delivering and which are not, because it's hard to predict. I mean, my top-performing video in terms of watch hours is a deep dive on Vanity Fair, which really surprised me. And my most watched video is my newbie video. The newbie video just seems to keep going. It doesn't seem to slow down. I think I might have...
Someone even shared your newbie video with me back when you started. So,
wow.
Yeah. So
I would confess that when I started, I did feel as a newbie that I was a little bit of an oddball, and that helps, I think. You know, I wasn't your typical youngster coming in and saying, "This is what I want to do." Also, you know, I being from South Africa is also a little bit unusual, which helps. So I suspect there may be a slight novelty factor. I must say, though, I've watched this show of yours and seen you cycle through some very interesting guests, and some of them have talked about the sort of negative or downside. I haven't had any such experience. I'm sure it'll come. Maybe I'm not big enough yet. Maybe that's the truth. But I've only had kindness, and people are really, really nice in this corner of BookTube. I've had people compliment my voice. I've had people, you know, things I wasn't expecting. And the enthusiasm is fantastic. And of course, the discovery of new books is very exciting. In fact, if I'm just going to reach Randy, you and I were chatting the other day. Randy, I know, is on this huge Rider Haggard kick. This is a book I found called Diary of an African Journey. It's published locally here by the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. And it says, touring as a member of the Dominion's Royal Commission, Haggard found it hard to recognize the Africa of his youth. He He came back to South Africa in 1914 for the first time since 1881. And this is his diary of his travels. And what I found fantastically interesting is there's a whole chapter interviewing a guy called John Dubé, who was the guy who formed the African National Congress, which became Nelson Mandela's political party and is now running the country. But this is way back before they had formed. Ryder Haggard was interviewing the local guy who was saying we really need to do something about the situation in South Africa. I mean, it's endlessly interesting. And
yeah, I would love to get a collection of Ryder Haggard's journalism. You know, his articles that he wrote.
And I don't know, do you like Trollope, Mark?
Yeah,
because this was the other thing I found. Here's Anthony. How close can I? Anthony Trollope's writings on South Africa. You know, because I didn't even.
Oh, very nice. I didn't read.
You know, I mean, look. Part of the reason I called the channel the sort of Renaissance is that it is for me a journey, a journey of discovery, and that's also why I'm not doing any of these book buying bans that people are talking about at the moment. As you can see behind me, I do already have too many books. I've just released a video now asking the question, can you have too many books? And spoiler alert, my answer is no. And I'm in good company.
A good answer.
Umberto Eco also believes you can't have too many books. But my favorite quote from him was, he said, if God exists, then God is a library, which I thought was lovely. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a few comments. I'll go through the comments and then we'll ask you a couple of questions. The one thing I will ask, I don't know, Randy, is Mike would actually be a good fit for probably the Haggard event if he's interested, I would say.
Well, I was going to say, I believe Mike's going to be a co-host.
Well, Randy offered me the co-host. I'm very grateful. The one pause I would just put on it is that I am conscious of the factor I've heard people talk about, where you sign up to too many events and you end up shaping your reading around what's coming down the track, and you never get to the. I will confess. Look, I'm happy to come back to you guys and chat about it, but I do have I haven't read Fahrenheit 451 for God's sake.
Well, it is only January, so that doesn't really ruin your whole year, I suppose, if you've got only January.
The other secret is I watched with huge jealousy while all of you in the North have gone through your holiday season in August and September, which we don't have. We have a sort of Christmas break, and I'm normally off work for nearly 4 weeks. So because I take all my leave at the year end, so I am hoping that December will be a much more productive time in terms of reading, because right now I'm going through the busy time ahead of that shutdown, and so my reading's really struggling at the moment, but not in terms of enthusiasm, just in terms of physical time. So I'm willing, but I'm just nervous.
I don't blame you. And I was actually going to say one thing I did notice from you and with Emily, actually, was I was laughing to myself when I see that you're in, like, I don't know, John Irving group, you're in something else and something else. I thought, oh yeah, definitely newbies, because I join everything as well. So it's like, you know,
I'm in the John Irving group too. Does that make me a newbie?
No, but you're not in 100 million other things, are you? Well, a few maybe. But I do want to say, Randy,
it feels like it sometimes.
Before we do move on, Randy, I do want to say, because you'll be interested in this too. I think Mike's got the book too, but there is an H. Rider Haggard essay in here as well from Graham Greene's collected essays. So,
oh, okay, very good.
Yeah, he reminisces on his own experience reading.
Haggard's an interesting character, man.
Definitely.
I've got his biography and I've been reading it. It's like, man, this guy's interesting in his relationship with his father. His father's a real son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And it's just great reading his biographies. I always try to read biographies of somebody that I quote unquote start studying. So I'm reading Ian Fleming's biography too, and he picked up a James Bond book, because I don't know what James Bond book could be more interesting than the life of Ian Fleming.
Pretty well put. Right, a few comments here. So Bibliophile reads, hello all, hope you guys are doing great.
Hey.
Next up, Ariane's here. Hi, Ariane. Hi all. I've been enjoying.
Hey, Ariane.
So there we
Thank
go.
you.
Hannah from Hannah's Books is here. Greetings. How lovely to see the three of you together.
Hello, Hannah. How are you doing? How's the shoulder?
Casper's Mystery Corner is here, spending my lunch with y'all.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Casper. Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff is here. Hey, y'all. And
Hey, Jim.
Michael's Backlog 2 is here as well. Hi, everyone. Hi, Michael. Good to see you. Oh,
Michael,
India here from Tennessee as well, saying hello too.
Oh,
gosh. A few of the regulars.
Tennessee.
So tell us a little bit about your channel, Mike. And also, I would encourage everybody who's not subscribed or doesn't know Mike to head over to his channel after this or during, doesn't matter, this live and check out his channel, subscribe, Riffraff's Reading Renaissance. You can find him there and his @ symbol, Riffraff Reads. And yeah, tell us a little bit about your channel. Do you concentrate on anything in particular? What do you kind of do there?
Okay, it's not formally restricted, but the reality is I started it because I got onto BookTube. I discovered BookTube and I discovered you all. And it was driven by, strangely enough, I had a bit of a health scare. I've had 2 health scares, one related to cancer, and I'm happy to say that I was lucky. All got chopped out, and that was in 2011, so it's behind me and I'm good. And I also suffered a stroke along the way, and those 2 things together, from which I've fully recovered, they really did make me think, it's a finite time we have here, as Steve's always reminding us. And I thought a little bit, as one does, about, what haven't I done that I really want to? I've had a wonderful life. I've had a wonderful family life. My 3 kids are all post-school and growing up and becoming adults, etc. And the thing I hadn't done enough of was reading, because I was very fortunate legacy-wise. My grandmother was the Durban City librarian. So, as I say, books were in our DNA. And my mother was an English teacher. So between those 2, I had no chance. I had to like books. But professionally, I'm a chartered accountant if you're English, and I'm a CPA if you're American. And I'm a CFO in my day job, which is very busy. And doesn't leave a lot of time, if you're not efficient, to do the fun stuff. But I've now at a point where I'm really prioritizing what I call the fun stuff of reading. But in fact, it's focused primarily on the great books that I need to read between now and when I shuffle off, And the formula is working because, as I say, I've been doing BookTube since July, but I've probably been on this kick since about January of the year. I took about 6 months to meet you all virtually and pluck up the courage to do the first video. And in that year, I've knocked off War and Peace. I've knocked off Anna Karenina. I've read Crime and Punishment. I've read the Brothers Karamazov. So I've sort of done the Russians to some extent, which was perhaps a good starting point. And now I'm sort of on a vague tick about 1 book per author for a while, rather than, I read Graham Greene's The Quiet American for the group read of Dr. November. Absolutely loved it. And both Emily and I were
wonderful, isn't it?
It is. It's fantastic. And Emily and I did it as a buddy read, and there's a video on that. And the difficulty we both had was we wanted to read more Graham Greene. But I'm very conscious that there's so many great authors I haven't got to. So I want to read, for example, Fahrenheit 451, and then I'm going to not read more Bradbury until I've made a little bit more progress. So it starts with sort of the classics, but I'm not limited to the classics. I have read some odd books. I love watching the booktubers who make good recommendations, and you're both amongst that list. As is Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads.
Definitely.
And Brian for Bookish. Those kind, and Steve, of course. Steve goes without saying. But so we get to a point where I'll suddenly hear of a book, and I think, wow, like I've just done with you, Mark, where you recommended this Other Paths to Glory book. And I was so taken with your video on it, I thought, I've got to read that. So it is a challenge, and I do read modern stuff. I'm not, one look at me says I'm not young adult, so that's not going to happen. And I don't like science fiction or fantasy as a goal. I do want to read Ursula K. Le Guin because she's too good not to read. I need to read one Asimov. I need to read, that kind of thing. Probably one Philip. I've just got hold of a copy of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Is that the right thing? Which is I'm trying to experience each of the great writers in the time available. Frankly,
well, you have mentioned some, fairly good books, but I didn't hear whether you had read Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome or not. So
yeah, well, now you're showing that you're not watching my videos, Mark, because yes, I mentioned specifically because I did a video which you should go and read.
I will definitely.
Because it's called BookTube Made Me Do It.
Right.
And I put it out as a tag, and I'd encourage anyone to do it, where I've taken 10 books that I found through booktubers. And you're in there for 3 Men in a Boat, which
Am
I did. You are.
There you go. I will definitely go and watch it. Apologies. I will be the first to say I do not watch every single video of everybody because part of getting to how I got to the subscribers I got was subscribing to probably 3 times as many people. So half the time, And I have to say, one weird thing too, I don't know if other people notice this, is that sometimes I don't know how when you tag people and mention people, sometimes it doesn't really work. I find out later that I have been, but
isn't that odd?
It's weird, and then I look through the description, and I'm clearly blue, so it was tagged, but then I never got anything about it. So it is weird. But I do want to just come to Hannah because she responded to your question there. Healing, thank you for checking in. I hope to be back to BookTube very soon. Well, that's good news. And then she also says, I'm looking forward to reading The Quiet American this week. So
great.
Wonderful. I bet that was quite. I think that'd be an interesting video, though, Mike. I'll definitely check it out because BookTube Made Me Do It. I think there must be a hell of a lot of good stuff on there. So.
Well, it starts with Shelley Swearingen, who put onto Edith Wharton's Ethan Frome.
Right.
When people talk of Wharton, they tend to talk of the other two, not Ethan Frome. And Ethan Frome is a dark book about damaged people, and it's fantastic. I never want to scare new people off my channel, but I don't like goody two-shoes characters. I like characters who are struggling to survive the slings and arrows. I find that deeply interesting, and also I find great writers do a fantastic job of giving you those characters in the flesh that you can imagine. Because look, there's no spring chickens on this channel at the moment, on the screen at the moment. We've all been around, and it's tough, and things don't always go in a straight line. And I think I want my literature to reflect that. And as I say, I always look for one of two things from books: either a rattling good story, like we were talking the other day, Ben McIntyre's Spy and Traitor is unputdownable, it's just great, or I want writing that knocks me over, like the 100 Years of Solitude, that kind of thing. Something that I actually I've just done. There's a new booktuber who, if you haven't heard of, you should check out, called Sailing with Books. And she's just done, she's wonderful. She's got about 11 videos and about 180 subscribers. And she hasn't mentioned her name yet. So I've challenged her to tell us at least her first name so we know what to call her. But she did a tag, which I've now done as well, on the 10 best quotations or extracts from what you've read ever. And it's a lot of fun. You guys should look at that. If you, I know, Mark, I don't know if you do a lot of tags, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I've had a tremendous response. It's one of my most recent videos, and touch wood, thus far it seems to have gone down extremely well. But yeah, there's a lot of joy to be had out of reading. I have to say, there just isn't enough time. That's the only complaint.
I certainly did a lot of tags in the early days, and I actually made quite a few original tags. That was my little thing when I got on here. So I think I made probably about maybe like 9 or 10 actually, like within the space of the first, 6 months. And some of them did pretty well. But I don't really do them very often. these days.
But
I have to say.
you've also created a lot of events, Mark. I'm aware of that, and that's
Mhm.
something you would
Yeah.
give you credit.
Yeah.
I should make a tag.
Well, you should make one for Haggard, the Haggarduary or whatever the hell
For
it's going to be
sure.
called. You know, but
Well, we should have a tag for Dr. November too.
Yeah, that's
there isn't one. Did I not do one for the first year? I don't know.
maybe.
Maybe.
One of my plans, as I was saying earlier before we went live, I take my leave in December, unlike you guys at the north who will go off in August, September. But when on my leave, one of the things I do want to do is trawl back through BookTube history, looking for great tags that just happened before I was around, because there's no reason not to resuscitate them, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always good to find ones that have kind of been forgotten about and revive them, because, you know, when they went out the first time, they did all right, you know. So yeah, I'm not just talking about mine, I'm talking about loads of people's, you know, because some of them are good. I want to say Summer's here, and she's probably just popped in now that she knows we've stopped talking about The Quiet American after her unfortunate experience with it, let's say, if anyone saw her video yesterday. So she wasn't a big fan. Hi, Summer.
Oh, I didn't see that video. I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, it's not for everybody, and I guess
reading is very personal, right?
Definitely. Yeah. But you always have to be careful, I think, because, you know, you some books seem sacrosanct, don't they, a little bit for people. It's like if I came on here and started saying, "Oh, Middlemarch is a load of bollocks," I guarantee I will be absolutely, you know,
would have on your neck. Yeah,
I'd be cancelled. Exactly. Oh, Emily's here as well. Hi there.
Hello, Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Yeah, but Mark, what you're talking about, criticizing books, is a bigger issue. I was watching just yesterday something I hadn't seen before from the TikTok end, talking about the real bombardment of hate you get if you don't like the book that we're all supposed to like. I do think it helps, you know, having been around a bit, I care a lot less about that kind of thing. And I'm quite happy to tell you what I think, because I do think that reading is immensely personal. You know, I think I was the other day I was punting this Damon Galgut's The Promise, which I've still got it here. In fact, I've got many copies. That I'm on a mission to get people to read this book.
Oh yes, I've got myself an e-copy. So
great, yeah, which is, I think, the best book that's come out of South African literature since Alan Paton's Cry the Beloved Country.
You're not including Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee?
That's a tough one. I mean, it's a good book, but boy, it's a brutal story here. But I mean, The Promise is not. Look, South Africa is not an easy country, but it is a hell of a rich heritage and story. All the nonsense and trouble that this country has been through is such a fertile ground for fantastic stories, no matter which side of the story you enter from, and no matter what piece of it you look at. You know, we're a melting pot of cultures here, and each of them has their own particular piece of the puzzle to tell. So it's endless.
Yeah, because you've got in your part, you've got quite a big East Asian community, haven't you?
Yes.
South Asian community. Sorry.
Yes. I live in KwaZulu-Natal, which is the east coast of Durban, or the east coast of South Africa, and yeah, we've got a massive Indian population. In fact, we have the most number of Indians anywhere outside of India.
There you go.
Yeah, there's no population of Indians bigger than the South African Indian population, except India itself. So, yeah, and I mean, we have 11 national languages, if I tell you that. That'll give you an idea.
How many of them do you speak, Mike?
Obviously English. In my day, which is back in the dark days of apartheid, Afrikaans, the Dutch-derived language, was mandatory. And so I learned that, and I learned it as a kid, and therefore what you learn as a kid is easy. My deepest regret is that in those days with segregation, etc., they didn't teach us the indigenous black languages. So now I'm trying and failing to learn. The local language in KwaZulu-Natal would be isiZulu, or Zulu language. And I'm surrounded by work colleagues who all speak that language fluently, and it's a deep regret. And trying to learn a new language at my age is not easy.
Do they have Duolingo for Zulu?
I'm sure they do.
I'll just get back to the comments because we have a few questions.
Yes.
Ariane asking you, Randy, who is the author of the H. Rider Haggard biography you mentioned earlier?
Oh, let me look.
Okay. And Summer mentions, the end of the year book tag has been doing the rounds for at least 10 years now. So that's one that's still going. Jim is proceeding to actually make a Dr. November tag for us while we're live on air. Shaken Not Stirred, a book that left you emotionally shaken. Goldfinger, a book that is visually stunning. You see? There you go. Yeah. Pussy Galore, a book that... Oh, wait, I won't mention that. Oh, Mike among the legends, smooth. Hi, Mark, hi, Mike, Mark, Randy, and everybody in the chat. Great to see. Great to see.
This is Angelina.
Yeah.
Is it Slovenia, Angelina? I think where you are.
She's Russian living in Slovenia, I think, if that's right. Yeah. Not too far from me because I know she's got one of the Czech national symbols usually in her little mole. You know, this the animal. I mean,
I love this channel. She's like me. Let's answer the Rider Haggard question.
D.S. Higgins, okay. Rider Haggard the Great. Now, where did you find that, Randy? Was that recommended to you by Steve or somebody, or?
It was on Kindle Unlimited.
All right. Okay. Oh, there you go.
Normally, I skip. I turn my nose up a little bit at some of these Kindle Unlimited books, but this one had like 500 pages, and it had some quotes and some. But yeah, this is one of 3 Haggard biographies that I bought.
Oh wow! Well, there you go.
But it's very interesting.
And speaking of Haggard and Zulu and everything, it's all connected. It's all connected. Yeah, Zulu is
all connected. Well, I was going to say something too.
Yep.
Mike, I can relate to the health scares leading to a renaissance in your reading because that's exactly my story.
Yeah.
I found I had cancer a few years ago, and I have, unfortunately, an incurable form of cancer. But one of the things that I thought was I need to live a life that's more true to myself. How do you do that? The advice you always see is, what did you love doing as a child?
Yep.
Well, I was a bookworm when I was growing up. I read books constantly. And so I'm trying to get back towards that, flip that switch back, and it's working. And I'm loving it. I'm enjoying my reading life now more than I ever have. But yeah, the life-changing events like this they're nothing to sneeze at. And if it leads to, more time reading, I just think that's marvelous because that's what it did for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it has improved my daily quality of life unquestionably since I went from someone who reads when I find spare time to someone who's a sort of a prioritized reader, where I'm actually saying I want to read and I want the rest of my life to sort of fit in around that. I don't always get that right because there's obligations and responsibilities, but I do think it's a priority like it never has been. Mark, that video, one of my many videos that you haven't watched, is that the one about BookTube made me do it. Angelina, that we saw just now, has put me onto Kazuo Izuguro's Nocturnes, because everyone knows Remains of the Day, but this is a book of short stories about music and night. And she was talking on her channel about that, and so she's also in my video about BookTube. Man, I'm trying to blame someone else for the fact that I've got too many books other than myself. I'm trying to blame you
all. We have Jim saying they don't have Duolingo for Georgian. Slovenia, yes. Summer says Dan Brown's latest book is set in the Czech Republic. Yes, I don't know, and that is making me think about reading it, but I'm not a big fan of Dan Brown. I think it's not that good.
Don't do it.
But it's in the Czech Republic. It might be good. I mean, it might be interesting. I don't know.
Mark, if you want to justify the time investment, I think there's a video waiting to be done about the formula for writing a Dan Brown book.
Yeah.
Because if you line up all his books, and I read the big one, the Da Vinci Code. I haven't read any of the others, but I've summaries off the various places you can get summaries of, and they're all identical.
Yeah.
The formula is incredibly consistent. There's the scientist who's into numerology, and then it's just a different setting and a different emergency.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I did read Angels and Demons as well. That's the only two I did read. The thing was, when I was a 19-year-old, whenever it came out, Da Vinci Code, I thought it was actually all right at first, but then I started noticing, like, there were some, the biggest crime anyone can do for me are easily checked factual errors.
100%.
And the more I started thinking about things, I thought, no, I'm not. So I didn't even bother with any of the others. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I can do I read the latest Dan Brown, so you don't have to kind of video. But
love it.
We would appreciate not having to. But
now you're cooking with gas, Mark.
Yeah. Sorry?
Now you're cooking with gas, Mark. I feel like I finally started to get through to you.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Try to teach Mark how to run a YouTube channel, Mike.
Yeah.
Summer, I do want to point out, I'm not being a book snob either, because I do I love a lot of all sorts of stuff, but I just the factual errors and like the caricatureness of some of his characters, like having an Englishman who's almost like one syllable away from being called Teabag. He's like Lee Teabig or something, making him a villain, and he's called basically Teabag. And then like little things like he's got someone using a mobile phone at 30,000 feet or something, which they wouldn't have been able to do in the 90s because they would have been out of any range. The fact he's making a transatlantic flight, I think, to England, but he's, Dan Brown's looked at a map and he's like, okay, we're flying from Washington. We're going to fly to Portugal and then up. When, of course, nobody flies that way. You fly up to Canada, down, from Greenland across, to Iceland and down into Britain. These little things, it was entertaining. It was.
I think you got a fair point, because I mean, when I was younger, I read all the Frederick Forsyth novels, and the thing about Forsyth, I mean, in The Day of the Jackal, there's a piece in the novel where he disassembles a gun and tells you how to smuggle it through Paris airport control, and it's so detailed and so accurate that you're certain that Forsyth had done it himself.
Yeah.
The same is true of the Dogs of War in terms of how the mercenaries planned the coup. It's so detailed and so researched that you end up thinking, sure, he was probably one trigger away from actually doing it himself. And I think if you've got authors that do that, I found Dan Brown irritating. I think also Dan Brown was guilty of not being clear about, is he doing a Forsyth where he's researched the details and they're all true and you can bank on them? Or is he writing an alternative history where you accept that some of the rules are suspended? I think he was trying to have it both ways. As the book took off and exploded and he became famous, I think he was trying to be everything to everybody. And
boy, did he become famous though. Like every second person was reading the Da Vinci Code back in the day. You went on a bus or a train, it was literally the Da Vinci Code and Harry Potter, that everyone was reading.
I think Harry Potter has more moral value, because I do think Harry Potter is the reason that a lot of kids now read.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas I don't think Dan Brown created any readers. I don't. Personally,
might have turned a few off.
Maybe.
Sorry, Summer. Sorry. Yeah, that's my little bad feeling about how much you dislike Graham Greene, maybe. So no, I'm only kidding. But we have Jim carrying on with his prompts for the Dr. November tag. For Your Eyes Only, a book you think deserves more attention. It's pretty good. And
brilliant.
Hannah's saying,
I know what I'm going to punt. I'm going to punt Damon Gulgut's The Promise.
And Hannah's saying, well, cancer didn't lead me back to reading. It did bring me to BookTube as a viewer and a creator.
Fantastic. We're very happy about that, Hannah.
Yeah. And Da Vinci Code was entertaining. It was, it was entertaining.
It was. As fluff reading, it was great. It was.
Well, I remember not being able to put it down. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna lie about that. I literally, it was a break, and I was just non-stop reading because the story. The pace of it. If you took all the other stuff out, it was something different at the time, perhaps.
I think it was a good story. The thing I've realized subsequently is that he keeps writing the same good story again and again and again, and
Yeah.
just the names and places are changed to protect the guilty. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it.
I made it about to page 50 in the Da Vinci Code back in the day. It wasn't for me, says Lou. So
Fair enough.
So, plans going forward, Mike, for your channel. You know, you're going to hit 10,000 by next July, or?
Well, I don't know who was here earlier when we said, but I've been doing this since July, and I've just hit about 400 subscribers. And I'm old enough and cynical enough not to be too fussed about the whole thing, which I think is probably the right way to do it, because I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying the sort of slow, steady, organic growth of subscribers, but I'm not stressing about it. The other thing, I know Randy likes to talk on this show about the
Randy likes to talk.
but also specifically about the how-to side of BookTube, how you actually go about it. And I don't know whether it's interesting, and please stop me if it's not, but I have had quite a specific approach to it, because I'm the kind of guy who does read the instructions. You know what I mean? When they say nobody reads the Apple instructions before they click the button. I'm the kind of nerd that, because of my accounting training, I actually do read, and I've spent quite a long time trying to learn how all these things work. And I've had some interesting experiences, because my position is I'm not prepared to chase the algorithm, and I'm not prepared to prostitute the art. I'm not going to put clickbait headlines in that aren't true. But if I give you a very simple example, without thinking, I would have originally I did a deep dive on Vanity Fair, as I said, and I would have labeled it, Vanity Fair, a review. That's what I would have called it in the past. Whereas, having worked with some tools I'll tell you about now, in fact, I'll tell you right now, there's a tool called vidIQ, which you can download. You can download free, and I thought, well, let's just see what it is. And of course, it's exactly what you think it is. It's going to chase the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. And for only $10 a month, blah blah blah. My rule is I won't pay a cent. I'll do the free stuff, and I'll learn how it works, and I'll use that. But what I have now got without paying a cent is that when I prepare my videos, and I've got a very specific process, once I load them into YouTube, this vidIQ thing gives me a score out of 100 in terms of, I don't know what they call it. I don't want to call it clickbaity, but watchability, or the likelihood that this video is going to succeed and reach. And then you can adjust things and see the impact of the adjustment. And it's very accurate. It predicts accurately which videos are going to perform well and which don't. I find that helpful. I won't, for example, stop me if this is boring, but I know Randy always asks these questions, so I thought I'd preempt it. But I mean, my process is as follows. I build the idea on PowerPoint. I build bullet points on PowerPoint as my prompt, because I don't like a script, but I need notes of some sort, not to worry that I've forgotten the story. So I just do major.
Let me get you to back up just a sec, Mike. So where do you go for your ideation?
Okay. I don't know the answer to that. I've always been a creative person. I'm a musician. I've done acting. So there is a lot of creativity in me, and a lot of sort of what I would call left brain, think outside the box stuff.
You have a list of potential upcoming videos?
Sorry, say again?
You have a list of potential upcoming videos? Because that's what I've got. I've got constant lists I'm brainstorming, and they're just everywhere around here.
I've got lists on my phone, and they are called BookTube ideas. And there's one called BookLook, which is every time you guys say, here's a book you should get, I put it on BookLook, because when I go to the university shops, that's where I try and find those books.
I had one that I didn't do. It was just an idea, was to have books on the bog. And every week I was going to do one book review from the toilet.
I'll tell you the one I shouldn't say, because it'll put pressure on me, but the one I have to do, which I'm hoping to have the time over the break in December. This banned book ones that are going around, I think are great. I feel very, very, I lived through the censorship of South Africa, where a narrative was given to us by a regime that didn't want us to know what was going on. And that's left me with a passionate hatred of censorship. The only censorship I could tolerate at all is sort of age ideas, people too young for something. That I'll tolerate. But in terms of consenting adults, no one must tell me or you or anyone else what to read. And I feel passionately strongly about that. So I've been watching all these channels. I know MJ does them, and a whole lot of people do these channels about reading banned books, which I love. And I think there's a YouTube video waiting, which I need to be the guy to do it, about banned books in the South African context. There's a whole story there, from the trivial, like Anna Sewell's Black Beauty, which was banned because the censors are really that stupid, and they didn't get it. They thought it's a true story, but to the much more serious. And I mean, where did I put them now? I mean, I've got a pile of books here. I'm busy acquiring copies of all the banned books. This is Andre Brink's novel called Looking on Darkness. This is the very first novel that was banned by the apartheid regime. And I mean, there's plenty more where that came from. But I think that, to me, would probably be the banned book video that I want to make, is putting that context in.
You see, I think, yeah, you can make a video and then have some kind of Q&A live or something about it, because, you know, it brings up many questions for me. I mean, I'm thinking, I know this is off topic for our thing, but I have to ask while we're here. But I'm thinking, so generally speaking, it goes without saying that any book by a Black author would have been automatically banned.
Well, not by definition. It did depend on the content. I mean, there could have been some trivial content that wasn't offensive, but the idea was anything that challenged the status quo. And of course, in the realm of novels, you've got the artistic thing, and there were a high level of Afrikaans literary writers who were writing novels. I've got another one here. One of the most famous ones is this one by Etienne Leroux, called Machersfontein or Machersfontein, which is pronouncing it in Afrikaans for you. I mean, these were using the template of a novel where you can tell a story that creates an allusion to what you're trying to say. I mean, a bit like Damon Galgut's Promise that we were talking about just now. And again, I think those who populated the censorship office were not the nation's finest, and quite often the messages went straight over their heads. I mean, I'll tell you, for example, that there was a pop song. Just to put it in context, the national anthem of the ANC, while there was still a protest movement that was banned, is based on the same musical. It's a musical tune from Africa called "God Bless Africa," and in South Africa, a white South African band released a pop song into which they had weaved that entire tune the whole way through the song. And it went to be a #1 hit on the Afrikaans pop charts. You know, there's stories of resistance at all levels, trivial and significant. But I've watched this banned book thing with great enjoyment. You know, that everyone else is doing, and I feel in arrears. I feel I owe BookTube a video, but I can't do it until I've got the time to do it properly.
I think that's an interesting thing.
But sorry,
we kind of got derailed there too. I want to go back to the PowerPoint and your process for the videos.
Yeah. Okay, let me talk.
Can I just before you do that, can I just clear the comments, because otherwise it won't mean anything by the time we go back. So because they're related to what you said there. So, Jim's got another one named Bond, a book with the main character so iconic they could carry an entire series. Emily says that would be a great video, Mike. Maybe a series of videos ? And Andre Brink is a great writer. Now back to you, Mike, and your PowerPoint.
Thank you. No, well, I just, you know, the PowerPoint is just crib notes, basically, just to capture the ideas or the particular quote, if it's a long quote, something, so that I don't fumble while I'm on camera. Then once I've got that ready, I will film one take. I never stop. It's always one take. If I bugger things up, I just pause and carry on. Interesting, one of the hangovers of the stroke I talked about earlier is that when I'm tired, the muscles in the back of my mouth, speaking, I can feel the difference. I'm told no one else can hear it, but I can feel it, and it's difficult. So sometimes I will stumble on a word, and that I have to edit out. It's an ego thing. I can't leave that in. So, but I won't stop filming. I'll film one slot. And then immediately I finish that, I load it into the system. I use Clipchamp to edit. It's a Microsoft freebie.
I use it.
I think it's fantastic. I've now mastered it very quickly. I add music. I have a standard music track that if anyone's watched my channel regularly, you'll know the one because it's normally that one. I only deviate from that if there's a special need. Like if it's a Victober novel, I'll put in a dainty Victorian tune, and because I have, I don't know if I've said this before on BookTube, but I have a massive music collection. I was doing Spotify before Spotify started. I have an iTunes personal collated music collection of nearly 8 terabytes of music. So you could say to me Ethiopian folk music, and I'll go. It's all categorized. I'm very proud. I've got my own Dewey Decimal System. I can pull up for you Ethiopian folk music in 2 minutes, and so I do. I put music into the videos wherever I can to be part of the presentation.
How do you get around any kind of copyright on that then?
Well, I've also got a lot of royalty-free music.
Oh, okay, right.
Most of it is designed to sound like the one you know. Do you know what I mean? All copycat stuff. So, but I have, in fact, on 3 or 4 occasions inserted real copyrighted material. This argument about fair use. If it's, for example, I've just done on this tag from Sailing with Books, and anyone watching who didn't hear me say go and check out Sailing with Books, please do check her out. Her channel's fantastic. But her tag was calling for quotes, and I wanted to quote from, here it is here, this biography of Burton and Taylor called Erotic Vagrancy is one of the most fantastic reading experiences I've ever had. If I tell you from the front cover, Stephen Fry says it's magnificent, terrible, tragic, and triumphant. And Marina Hyde, we were talking about earlier from The Guardian, says it's the best reading experience she's ever had in her life. So if you like Burton and Taylor, it's huge. It's 600 and something pages. And Roger Lewis is a bit of a lunatic, but boy, he can write. So I wanted to quote from this book. I won't do it now. You can check it out in my videos. But there's a fairly long description of Richard Burton's voice in such brilliant prose. You can hear, if you know Burton's voice, then you know why people like me love his voice. I think he's got the greatest voice I've ever heard in my lifetime. But I thought doing the BookTube video to anyone who doesn't know Richard Burton's voice, I'm not going to sell it. So I need to put a clip in of his voice. And there is a definite go-to clip. If you haven't heard Richard Burton's voice, go to the LP by Jeff Wayne of the musical version of War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. The opening line is narrated by Burton, the one that said, no one would have believed that in the years, the opening line of H.G. Wells' book is narrated by Burton. And if that clip, which is in my video, if that doesn't raise the hair on the back of your neck, then no, I'm sorry for you.
You could have just played the intro to Zulu.
yeah. But I mean, I put that clip in, 8 seconds of it. And BookTube came up and said it's copyright, but you can use it in YouTube. Said to me. So, and it's done. Similarly, I've used a South African band called Jaluka, which is the Zulu word for sweat, which is a wonderful, these energetic dancing bands. I've put a clip of their music in because you can't describe it to people who don't know it. I'm testing the waters there, and the risk, of course, is monetization. But I'm at 400 subscribers, so that's not exactly a crisis for me yet. And there's an artistic side of me that says, I want you to feel what I'm feeling. I want you to understand what I'm talking about. And if that means I step over a line and get smacked on the wrist, I'm prepared to try to see what. I'm not going to abuse it. I'm not going to put the whole album on there. It's 8 seconds. But we'll see how we go. But now, Randy, again, I'm rambling as I tend to do. So let me come back to the process. So I put it into Clipchamp. I'm very fast in Clipchamp now. It'll take me 15, 20 minutes to edit the whole thing together, chuck in the front and end bits. The longest part of the process is the upload to YouTube, which takes an hour and a half or whatever it takes. I'm doing it in 4K, which is apparently what we're supposed to do now, because more and more people are watching us on large television screens than in the past. People are using TV sets instead of terrestrial TV. They're watching YouTube on TV. Once it lands in YouTube, I then play it in order to get YouTube to give me a transcript. YouTube then gives me a transcript, which I dump into ChatGPT, and I ask ChatGPT to give me a customized package for YouTube, and that gives me suggested headers, which I treat with caution and only use if they're better than my ideas. You know what I mean? I don't go the clickbaity route on that one. But what it does do fantastically, generates 25 hashtags, which I just cut and paste. If you look in my descriptions, at the bottom of my description, you'll see a thing that says, and for the almighty algorithm, and then I paste all of those hashtags. It's right at the bottom so that my real watchers can just ignore it, but it works. Because since I've been doing this optimization, there's a definite step change. My videos are on average getting more than double the views they had before. Now, you might say, well, I used to have 200 subscribers and now I've got 400. That might also be part of it. But for whatever reason, most of my best performing videos are the recent ones, with two exceptions. My newbie video is my most watched video. I've got over 500 views on that. So I would say to anyone who's new, do a newbie video. There's no question that that's a good idea. I don't know if you guys do. I actually go into BookTube and search on newbies just to see who's there. And I'll admit I don't watch them all, and I do judge a book by its cover. I look at the faces and I decide, well, that's a
look at the faces. That's harsh.
No, to be honest, look, I mean, you can see, and if all the books behind you are color coordinated, then I move on. So it's not going to happen.
Mike, let me back you up for just a second too. So you talked about how your traffic's improved since you started making these optimizations. So are you saying just the overall optimizations that you're getting from ChatGPT, or just the tags? Is there something specific?
I think it's a combination of things. Because I've read up quite a lot on what people think works and what doesn't. One of my rules is I think we should always have chapters. I think the chapter thing is very important. I know I see a lot of people don't do chapters. And look, I mean, a lot of people who are huge.
By the way.
But for example, if you put the transcript into ChatGPT, it will spit out chapters to you, which if you're wise, you'll check them because the timing's not always right. But at least it gives you a prompt. You know, I use ChatGPT to speed up, because time is my crisis. I use it to speed up things like the description of the video, and I take it as if someone had drafted something for me, and then I look at this and say, does it sound like me? Take out all the emojis, take out all the stuff that doesn't sound like me. But it does definitely help speed up the process, because I'm trying to get out 2 videos a week. I aim to get a tag-like video on a Tuesday for obvious reasons, and something sort of other general created stuff on a Friday. That's sort of what I'm trying to hit, because Friday night is when most of my watchers are most active. That's the other thing I look at in the analytics. They can tell you when your audience is actually watching stuff, so you can try and meet them halfway. So I do try. I think the sort of businessman in me wants to optimize the process, but the creative in me is not prepared to prostitute the art. I mean, the classic example is my thumbnails. That's the other thing, Randy, which might surprise you. I do the thumbnail before I film the video. And that's a trick somebody recommended to me. There's a reason why I like to do it, because you can't do it now because I'm in narrow frame. But when I'm normally in the horizontal frame, you will see a monitor over my shoulder, which actually has this week's, now it just says Refresh Reading Renaissance. But in my normal video, this screen would have the thumbnail of the show. And several viewers have said to me they really like that, because it makes them feel like they're connected to what they clicked on. But it's hard, because it does mean you got to have your act together before you start filming. You can't deviate when you're filming. You can't suddenly have a new idea, or else you've got to start again, and that's quite a long process.
So you have 3 monitors in front of you in addition to the one beside you.
Well, the one you can see in that shot is the third.
Okay.
Right now, as we look, I've got you three, the 3 of us on one monitor, and then off to the right, I've got the stats, my analytics, because I thought you guys might ask me questions. I've got that there, and then I've got the one that is shown up in the picture. And as I was saying to Mark earlier, the angle that you see in my videos is the presentable angle of this room, and an inch either side is complete carnage. So
I think you're really not alone in that. It's the same. It's actually even the same with me, because I still have yet to buy wardrobes, and all the clothes I own are in these kind of plastic boxes to the side of me that are overflowing. So there's like a massive pile of clothes over here on this side. Everything's normal around here, but over there, no.
I think it was Steve Donahue who coined the term parasocial, that our relationship on BookTube is parasocial.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love the people I've met on BookTube. I genuinely and sincerely mean they are some of the nicest people I've ever met. And I'm starting to realize that readers make nice people. I think that's got to be the rule. It can't be anything else. But the parasocial thing, it's easier as a relationship, because managing it is a lot easier. As Steve Donahue says, he doesn't even have to wear pants.
But yeah, you used a word earlier, Mike, that's interesting to me. You mentioned that you were a businessman. There's a commenter that Mark and I are both familiar with, who cruises around on BookTube finding booktubers to criticize. And in the one of my videos the other day, I try to make a big deal out of my weekly wrap-up videos, with the numbers, because I think people like numbers.
I do.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me. It's interesting to me to see how many pages per hour I've read, how that breaks down via genre. Statistics are interesting to me. They don't mean a thing. They're just interesting to me. And they make for interesting storytelling, because otherwise, if you don't want to read the story of my reading week, then what are you doing here? But anyway, this guy, Chris D. Beveridge, I think is his name, told me that I was a businessman and not a reader, that I don't talk about books. I thought Mark might get picked out of that.
That's
it's a couple. I think the third time he's cropped up this week in conversation. So
tell him from me that the reason Carmilla is the third book in my TBR pile is because of Randy. Randy's been working in Carmilla, so I mean,
big business decision I made there to recommend Carmilla. About
you'll come across him, Mike. Then you've made it. So
yeah,
that's right.
I don't think I've attracted his attention yet, but I'll keep trying.
I've been really tolerant of him. Apparently, everybody else has already banned him because he's really bizarre.
I don't know if it's the same guy.
He'll write something I approve of, like he'll say, "I am the greatest," and it's like, okay, Muhammad Ali.
I don't know if it's the same guy, but I watch a few of Gareth's videos at Book Songs and Magic, because it's quite strange, because his channel's got a lot of sort of science fiction, which is not me, but I love the musical side, and I do love the way he does his videos. He and Aaron read a book. Those are the two that I feel it's like chatting with a mate. It's great fun. And he has a guy who he has a problem with. I don't know if it's the same guy you're talking about, but he always says he's worried that it's one of his kids, because he's a school teacher like you, Mark. Nice. Kids who's coming on and stirring the pot. So, but the other thing I learned from this particular show a few weeks back, when Pat was on from Book Chat with Pat, you guys were talking about her rough start. She had some trouble early on, and she made a comment that MJ taught her the ropes about how to deal with that. I must declare, I haven't learned how to deal with that. So if it starts, I'm going to be reaching out to someone in BookTube saying, please teach me the tricks, because Pat sounded very empowered in terms of how to deal with that. So I assume that
just hide the user from channel. I mean, you don't know. It's perfect. They don't know. They don't know that they've been banned. They get driven insane by the fact that they can keep commenting till their heart's content, but you and nobody else will ever see it. So,
okay, brilliant. Yeah. But I have to say, I haven't had a single negative aspect. I
haven't watched your BookTube made me do it video yet, so we'll see.
Steve Donahue's constantly carping, as is his style. When I did the "Am I Like Jane Austen" tag, and I thought, again, to be creative, I found a picture of Jane Austen and I superimposed my face with the glasses into the book, and Steve, he was the first to comment. I flattered, because I think he watches me quite quickly after I release them, and he said, your thumbnail has sent me straight to therapy, which I thought was really funny. But again, as you guys have said, a negative comment is still a comment, and the algorithm doesn't count positives and negatives. That's another trick that I heard Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading say. She tells her viewers, if you don't feel like a comment to make, just leave an emoji. You know, just leave and I think that's very smart, because I like to comment when the people I watch, particularly the small booktubers who still need the help, when they make a video that I enjoy, often I think, wow, I really like that. I'll hit the thumbs up. But then I think, have I got a comment that's worth actually putting in there? You know, and I think it's a brilliant idea, which I think I'm going to steal, actually, to say to viewers, don't stress if you haven't got a comment, but if you just drop a thumbs up or a happy face, or just drop an emoji in there so that I know that I touched, you know, I reached you in some way.
Subscribe.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, in fact, Mark, go ahead, Randy.
Like, subscribe, and comment.
Yeah, in fact, we touched on this the other night when I was chatting with you, but I don't think I've said it to you, Randy. I read the biography of the marketing director of Coca-Cola. When he retired, he wrote a book about how Coca-Cola does marketing, and let's be honest, they're pretty good at it. And he said the biggest failing of most businesses is that they fail to ask the customer to buy the product. They keep advertising how wonderful the product is, and they fall short of that point of saying, so please buy it. And I've taken that to heart as far as the like and subscribe thing is concerned. And the way I've found to sort of soften the blow, because some people are uncomfortable to ask for people to do that, is I've found quite a nice little graphic that comes up and does a thumbs up and does, you know, it does it all for you. And therefore I can just quite casually say, you know, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please think about leaving a like and subscribe, you know, because it really helps the channel. And while that there's an action going on the side, it softens the blow. So that's how I do it. But I do think, I noticed Shelley Swearingen asks you to subscribe right at the beginning, and that's smart. It's hard because, you know, hey, have you earned it yet? You know, but people don't get to the end. I mean, if you look at the stats, it's quite brutal about what percentage of your audience is with you at the end. I'm not doing too bad. I think about a third of mine are normally there at the end, and that's not bad versus what I can see. My drop tends to be sharp at the beginning and then fairly flat, which I'm okay with that. But yeah, there's a lot of these variables. I see a question from Hannah. Mike, you are so much more organized about BookTube than most of us. Well, I'm afraid I think that comes in the DNA. I'm a finance guy by training, which I try to leave intellectually at the door when I engage with the creative side of my nature. But process optimization it's in my genes. I've got to do it.
Well, don't forget
for you.
Sorry,
related. I've got a tip for you related to keeping your dwell time a little higher on these videos. Is if you ever have a numbered list, be sure to mention, oh yeah, you're not going to believe what's at number 7, or you won't believe what's at number 8.
Yeah.
People will keep watching just to see what you put at number 8.
I have to say that's where I feel a little bit English, because I have there's a fine line for me about what I'm prepared to actually do.
Right.
But I mean, there is grey area. You know, like I said, the example I use where I've sexied up the Vanity Fair title, instead of just saying Vanity Fair a review, right. it Vanity Fair, the book that exposed Victorian society, which it pretty much did. You know?
Title's really important.
Title and
your
thumbnail.
Next one can be, Mike. You could do Gone with the Wind, Vanity Fair in the South.
Yeah.
They're very similar. Very similar, really. I'm pretty sure, you know, I haven't read about it, but I'm pretty sure Mitchell was quite, you know, you look at Scarlett O'Hara and Becky Sharp, and then Sykes and Wilkes, Melanie Wilkes, and then the Wet Week in Vanity Fair. What's her name? Can't remember. Yeah, exactly. Nobody can remember because
no one forget.
See, there are a lot of similarities. But anyway, Mike, I think unfortunately I will have to stop there because, you know, I have to go out, I have to walk dog. But I do want to say, please don't forget us. You know, when you hit your 50,000 subscribers by next year, you know, don't forget the little guys.
No, not at all. I'm exceptionally grateful for this interaction. It's so much fun. I'm still trying to work out what the future of this live streaming is, because half of me likes the chance to actually prepare a little bit of a presentation. And I mean, just a thought, one of the things that people I've heard say is that if it's too fancy with images flying in and out, it's not genuine. And I actually don't agree with that. I'm having tremendous fun learning the skills of doing that. And I don't think I do it to excess. For example, when I'm quoting from a book, I often like to put the text on the screen.
Right.
I think people like that. A lot of people have said to me they really like that, and the name of the book, you know. But it's these are just sort of tips and tricks as you go along. But I mean, I hear you with your tongue firmly in your cheek, Mark. But I'm very grateful for the support of BookTube. It's wonderful. I mean, the fact that, you know, I reach out to Steve and say, "Is this book worth getting?" and I get a response within half an hour. He says yes or no, and you know, there's a real book community here.
Yeah, they're real friendships, definitely.
Fantastic. I'm very, very excited about having stumbled into it. I think most people stumble into it. I mean, you know, but it really is precious, and I'm grateful for it.
You know, now I know the next time the Lions head off to South Africa, I've got a place to stay. It's perfect. So, you know,
as long as you, it's the chaos on either side of
the. There's a little sofa bed in the back of the book room. Yes. Just the last couple of comments. Yes, Scarlett and Becky Sharp are so similar, and Gone with the Wind and Vanity Fair are very similar. Yeah. So thank you so much to Mike from Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance for joining us. Thanks, of course, to Randy for being my co-host, and thank you to all of you for your wonderful comments and discussion. And you know, I'm sure Mike will be back. He's definitely going to be a returning guest, whether he likes it or not, at some point. Thanks, everybody. Do take care. All the best from us. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Happy trail.